I think it's fair to say, chums, that this was an utter disaster for Prince Harry. And as this latest scandal, drama, whatever, shambles unfolds, it's fascinating to find out the real story behind the scenes and what he did in order to make sure that this whole gravy train, whatever you want to call it, continued. As ever, let me explain. Morning, how are you? Thank you so much for your time. Now, I wanted to ask the question, right, because I mentioned the other day about the seeds, didn't I? And, the things you can take and everything. I'm not so sure, the problem with all the seeds, right, chums, is if you take them all, will they all counteract each other? Do you know what I mean? Because there's chia seeds, isn't there? There's linseed, pumpkin seed. I was looking at them all. I thought, hang on a minute, by the time I've taken them all, it'll be time to go back to bed again. You know what I mean? But they're all supposed to be so good for you. I'm a great believer, though, in that I think a lot of these things from nature can really help. Just a sprinkling of sunflower seeds, stuff like that. We have to look at what did people live on before we got all of this processed food. Not lecturing, it's not a climate thing. I'm just, when you think, because everything tastes odd now, doesn't it? Yes, you'll notice. I'm right, aren't I? There's a funny flavour. Even the Rice Krispies I got the other day, I thought, well, these are tasteless. And they used to have a flavour. So, and people try and tell you, oh, it's because you've got older, you lose your taste of smell, taste of whatever aroma. You think, no, it's not. You've just taken stuff out of it. It's always your fault in the end. Have you noticed? Don't get me going on that, chums. Absolutely. Now, let me explain this, because this is turning out to be a mega drama. Absolutely, 100%. You couldn't really make it up. This is terrible PR for the former royal known as the Duke of Sussex, Prince Harry. This is because, of course, they've gone together, Meghan and him, to pick up awards against racism, remember. I wonder if they'll be rescinding that back now, given what's gone on with Centre Barley, all of that sort of stuff. But one of the most revealing problems that literally came up out of Centre Barley was simply this. You see, according to that well-placed source, it's a person actually who works there, still there, how can I put this bluntly? They're a big cheese, right, at Netflix. And the bottom line was, they said that Polo was an unmitigated disaster. Nobody was interested, nobody watched it, everybody knew it. Everybody knew that nobody was going to be interested. Sadly, like I said to you before, a bit like Heart of Invictus. But what we found out is that Harry was trying to hijack that particular event to bring Netflix cameras along to a Centre Barley charity. I'm not sure if you understand this, but what happened was the venue was booked through a charitable fund rate. Once it becomes commercial, then the rate goes up, and rightly so. That's the deal, right? Now, apparently, as ever, allegedly, Netflix were not willing to stump up the cash for the commerciality of it. They basically said, no, the deal is this. So there was an option. Harry could either snap open his purse and pay for it himself, or get another venue. So consequently, they moved to a venue which, as ever, we have to say allegedly, was free, in order for that, shall we say, publicity. But it didn't really work out for them either, did it? Because clearly people weren't watching. But the fact that they got a lot of column inches via all the media that Harry hates so much, but was let in, of course, to review, take the pictures, all of that sort of stuff, you can see how this went. But why did he continue down this path? Well, according to that source, he's desperate to hold on to this Netflix contract. Not necessarily for himself. He's not actually that bothered about making content and programs. He'd much rather spend the days lazing around, perhaps enjoying his two children, right? But apparently, it's his wife. It always comes back to Meghan, right? And the bottom line is, he feels that she will be bereft if that deal is lost. Hence the reason he was willing to do anything other than snap open his purse, of course, to fund the plot. Now, he knows, Polo is a disaster. There's no second series. Even with the post and the sexy video and all of that sort of stuff, it failed. But what he couldn't fail was the fact that if he lost it, well, where does his wife turn? Apparently Paramount are cooling as we speak, and the other idea of anybody else now taking them on board is getting thinner by the day. So the reason why Polo had to go, had to stay, and had to go still into production was the fact that he couldn't face what might happen when he returned home. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.